can we just agree that this was a wonderful episode of RWBy? Wonderful doesn't even describe it. Emotional, slight character development, and maybe, just maybe, a small piece of hope in these dark hours. Probably not, because after all, despair always wins for many people. But this episode resonated with me on so many levels. The Angry Anime Fan here. Hi, for those who are watching, it's the 2019. And this is an explanation about many different things and also a little inblick on characters we didn't really think would have it. First off, the first half of this is Salem's faction. Well, at least Cinder's former disciples, Mercury and Emerald. Emerald is beginning to have an identity crisis because, well, she misses Cinder because, according to her, Cinder was the only mother she had. But Mercury points out, though, that Cinder never cared about them at all, which is true. I mean, he is pointing out a very real truth. Cinder never cared for Emerald or Mercury. For them, they were just pawns for her to become more powerful. And of course she feels upset about that. I mean, because I think she's in denial. She knows that Cinder never cared about her. But Cinder was the only one who said to her, "Follow me and you will never go hungry again." And for a child at that age who just feels low, I don't know what to do, nobody cares about me, those were the only words she needed to hear. Therefore she feels like it's something she has to hang on to. And Mercury wants to stay in the Salem because he feels like this is where I belong, because after all his dad trained it. And as we have known before, his dad was apparently a grade A asshole, and this just once again confirms just how big of an asshole he was. Mercury has never been a saint. Oh, far from it. Of all of his practically, I mean, while Emerald seemed to have been ruthless, it's always been the Mercury who has been closest to Cinder's level of sadism. However, unlike Cinder, it seems more like Mercury is a victim of the environment he grew up in, so to speak. Because his father beat him every day in order to make him strong. And when he unlocked his semblance, his father somehow stole his semblance. So Mercury doesn't have a semblance at all, because even after he managed to kill his father to prove, yes, that he was strong, he still didn't get it back. Which is one of the reasons why he has artificial legs in order to boost his strength. He has trained harder all this time, can even fight evenly against Pyrrha and Jang without any semblance, which is pretty amazing. However, here we also get another nice scene. Tyrion appears, with a new artificial tail, mind you. It looks bigger and more deadly than ever before. And he actually says something that riles up Mercury. I mean, Mercury has always been a guy who's easy to rile up, but here it actually feels like... I mean, I never, unlike so many people, I don't feel like Mercury should have character development. He has committed too many unforgivable sins to really go through that. The same with Cinder. I mean, Emerald, yes, she too. However, again, she is more of the fact she felt like it was necessity. And however, what Tyrion says is that he points out that Mercury was raised as an assassin. He was raised in darkness. He was raised in violence, and he was raised in death. It's the only thing he knows. So what he says is, you are afraid of leaving it, implying that even if Mercury wanted to change, he is too afraid to change, because all his entire life he has only known hatred and pain. And he actually reacts to that. But of course Tyrion pins him down. Meaning perhaps deep down Mercury wants to change. It's just, however, he doesn't know how. Because this is the only thing he is good at. So Tyrion pins them down and begins to say those cryptic words that maybe you should just be yourselves. Although of course he implies a very huge death threat to it all. But also says that he and the Doctor are now going to go to Atlas. The same idea that Cinder is going to go to, or where Osmond is. Why do I have a very strong feeling that they have an ally in Astral? No, Atlas. I mean Atlas. I mean, there's just a very big theory in my mind that seems to imply that maybe uh, Mr. Schnee, Wise's father, is an ally of Salem. I I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he is. He's a guy who only looks after himself, and the only way to look after himself is to serve the one person that can promise you more power. I mean, granted, it may not be like that, but I really do feel like they should have allies, especially if they're going to Atlas, because Ironwood is there, and he is no ally of Salem. Tyrion is pointing out that if Ironwood gets his shit together, well, then things gonna happen bad. That's basically the first part, but the second part of this episode is just full of emotion. As Team Juniper minus Pyrrha goes out to look for Oscar, Jon wants to sit alone on a bench where he sees a leaf, the same type of leaf that blew past him and Pyrrha when they had a heart-to-heart in Volume 3. And almost like he recognizes it, he follows it, and sad, beautiful music kicks in as we see a statue of Pyrrha. And here comes another part. A young woman, or an old woman. Actually, it's pretty difficult for me to pin down her age because she sounds older than Pyrrha. It is the same voice actress as Pyrrha. She even looks like Pyrrha, except shorter hair and maybe older. It's not known if this is a mother or even a sister. Hell, even by the end, it's not even known if that person was real. But a red-headed woman who has Pyrrha's voice appears and reveals to Jon that Pyrrha came from this town, but she wanted to go to Beacon to study, much to the sadness of everyone else. And they have a heart-to-heart where Jon confirms that Pyrrha was an amazing hunter. And the thing is that the red-headed woman even points out something I'm not really been saying, but something that I have almost been saying, that being a huntress is not easy. There's no going back, but she did what she thought was right, and she fought for it. And Jon realizes that is true. She didn't graduate, but there was no one who was a better huntress than her. And then suddenly Team Juniper calls back, and the red-headed woman disappears, implying that maybe that was Pyrrha, just another person as a ghost, or perhaps that could just have been a Pyrrha relative. However, they see the statue of Pyrrha, and finally Team Juniper have a heart-to-heart talk, as they reveal that somehow they overheard Jon's talk when he snapped against Cinder, saying like, if I die, it's fine. As long as I can protect them, those are what really matters. And they comfort him, saying that they do not want him to die. They are a team, they are friends, they are family. And even if they don't have Pyrrha, they will walk together, because and Jon says that even if Pyrrha didn't realize she could win against Cinder, she still did it because she just had to do it. So Team Juniper realizes, yes, they had to do it. Even if this is a hopeless battle, they have to fight. Finally, with new resolve, and closer than ever, Team Juniper leaves the statue as Jon thanks Pyrrha, and the leaf blows past them, symbolizing that perhaps Pyrrha is with them in heart. And as they get home to Seraphin, of course Crow is there, more plastered than ever. Ugh, he is so pathetic this volume. However, when they open the door, Oscar is actually there in a new combat gear also. He didn't run away because of all the pressure. Jon is actually quick to apologize, and Oscar also says it's fine. Because here he also shows maturity. He may not have wanted this, and all of these past few days has been just been an enormous amount of shock to him. However, he is in this situation, so he is going to fight, and he doesn't even know how long he is going to be himself. Because Osmina says that personalities merge. However, Jin said that Osmin learned to live alongside the incarnations. So, well, who knows really. Of course, Crow is still being his mopey self. But then Jon has an idea, a very, very crazy idea. Perhaps more reckless than ever. But let's just face it, they are out of options. They have no other options. This is the only plan they have. And if it doesn't work, well, then it doesn't work. And that is, if they can't get Atlas to take them to an Atlas military to take them to Atlas, then they must steal an Atlas plane, seeing that Atlas plane is the only one who get in near Atlas itself. It is incredibly risky, because if they do, they will become enemies of Atlas itself, who is currently the strongest military and the kingdom of them all. However, Ruby defends Jon, and finally gives Crow a piece of her mind, saying she doesn't care about what he thinks, what Crow thinks. She doesn't even care that he has to defend them because they can defend themselves. And the look on Crow's face is very satisfying because I've been extremely mad at Crow this volume. He is a badass fighter, yes, but he's been drowning himself in self-pity. And granted, I always drown myself in pity as well. It's just that Crow has never looked at the bigger picture. He has gone good in situations. He's just too much of a negative person to realize that. So when for RWBy to tell that in his face, that if you're not with us, then you can leave us. We are doing this our way. Even Maria says, looks like you didn't give her much credit herself. And the look on Crow's face may finally symbolizing that yes, maybe you will snap out of your drunken self-pity. If not, well, just punch him in the face and leave him. Because right now, this is the only plan of Team RWBy. So yeah, I mean, an emotional chapter, both dark emotional and heartwarming emotional. I know Mercury had an abusive childhood, but that is pretty dark. He is a dark character, and yet at the same time, there's almost some slight of pity here. Both he and Emerald are so similar. Emerald's whole life was Cinder because of a, attachment due to the fact that it felt like Cinder was the only one who cared for her. And Mercury has only known violence, therefore it's the only path he feels like he has to do. And at the same time, he hates his father, and his father hated him. That's true. Yet at the same time, he is just the same as his father, being this violent, even though it has some implications that maybe he doesn't want to. Tyrion's new tale looks more dangerous than ever, even thicker than before. What kind of ally do they have in Atlas? And finally, Jon may moving on from Pyrrha's pain, or from the Pyrrha loss, or at least they're together. So I'm very happy that they're here. Please, do not let RWBy drown in despair. Fight! Give me hope! I need hope. That's basically this episode. So give me your thoughts if you have any.